You know, small compact 4K cameras are becoming the trend, and now DJI has gotten into the game with their latest release of the DJI Osmo Nano, a small modular design pushing their way into Insta360 territory. But is this a camera that you really need? Cutie pie, where are we going?
The pumpkin farm.
The pumpkin farm. We're going to the pumpkin farm. And just so you know, I purchased this camera with my own money, so this is not a sponsored video in any way, shape, or form. DJI has never ever sent me any products, and I don't know if it's because they don't like brutal honesty or whatever the case may be, but you know, with saying that, I've really enjoyed the majority of all the DJI products that I have bought. The Osmo Nano has a 1/1.3 inch sensor, same as the DJI Action 5 Pro, and the Ace Pro 2 can record 4K up to 120 frames per second, has built-in storage of either 64 gigabytes or 128 gigabytes, which is what I opted for. Let's do a little weight comparison of the Nano versus the Insta360 Go Ultra and the Go 3S, since it's what the Nano is really competing against. Now, without their respective screen pods, the cameras themselves come in at, like the Nano, at 52.2 grams, the Go Ultra at 53.3 grams, and the Go 3S at 39 grams. Now, inside their screen pods, the weight jumps up to 123.8 grams for the Nano, 161.4 grams for the Go Ultra, and 136.2 grams for the Go 3S. Now, the Nano can record in either 8-bit or 10-bit at 420 chroma sampling, where the Insta360 cameras are capped out at 8-bit. But more on that 8-bit versus 10-bit a little bit further on into the video. Now, while the Nano does have built-in storage, you can also add an SD card to expand it, but not to record directly onto the SD card. The SD card slot is only for transferring the internal stored video to the SD card to free up some internal space. Either way, offloading the videos from the internal storage to either the SD card or directly into your computer via the USB Type-C cable is a very, very slow process. So put some time aside for video transfer, especially if you have a lot of footage to move around. Now, the build quality is very nice, and it has the ability to mount the camera head in either direction onto the screen pod, or as DJI calls it, their vision dock. Now, it's important to note that the Nano has non-replaceable batteries. That may be an issue for some, but I can tell you as an owner of the original Osmo Pocket 1, yeah, you know, that old original Pocket 1, its battery still works after 7 years, and I haven't noticed any effect on its performance. Now, maybe I'm just lucky. You can connect Bluetooth wireless microphones to it, like the Mic Mini or the DJI Mic 2, with no issue. But the screen will turn off when you remove the camera module from the screen pod, and I think that's because they're both competing for the same Bluetooth signal, but otherwise it works just fine. Now, this has normal color mode or D-Log M for those that like the color grade, but HLG is missing from this camera. If you're coming from the DJI Action 5 Pro, maybe DJI will add it on in a later firmware update, but it does have Super Night from the Action 5 Pro added. And we'll test that later on as a little side-by-side so we can see what it looks like compared to its competition. Now, I think that the audio coming out of this camera is very good with the built-in mic, and you can have it record an extra WAV file audio backup for post-processing or as a safety track if you choose. So, quick little audio test. The DJI Osmo Nano 12345. I've used this camera over the past couple of weeks a lot, from a high school homecoming parade to multiple volleyball games and practices, indoor, outdoor, in the refrigerator. Yeah, a lot. And I can say one thing for sure, it's actually a fun little action camera to use. So a quick comment about the 8-bit versus 10-bit debate. Now, even if you upload a 10-bit video to YouTube, YouTube will compress your video into an 8-bit release. Now, this is just some food for thought when it comes to 8-bit versus the 10-bit for YouTube. Now, for more professional projects and deliverables, this becomes a little bit more important, the 8-bit versus 10-bit. But this is straight from YouTube. Ready? This is what YouTube says about 8-bit versus 10-bit. Now, the color depth and banding. YouTube's conversion to 8-bit can lead to a visible loss of color detail and introduced banding, particularly in areas with smooth gradients, even if you started with a higher bit depth. Chroma sampling. Chroma sampling refers to how color information is compressed. 422 is less compressed than 420, offering better color reproduction and more flexibility for heavy color grading, but this benefit is lost in the YouTube re-encoding process. HDR versus SDR. Now, while 10-bit is required for HDR content on YouTube and offers benefits for that format, it does not add any extra definition or help reduce banding in SDR content because the file is truncated down to 8-bit. Now let's talk about some of the pros and cons of this DJI Osmo Nano. You ready? Build quality. Build quality is really, really good on this camera, and that's kind of the norm of what we're to expect with DJI products. So thumbs up in that regard. Audio. Actually, the audio sounds really, really good on this camera. Video quality. Video quality is actually pretty good on this camera, and it's kind of on par with the Action 5 Pro, although in my opinion, I think the Action 5 Pro has a slight advantage in overall image quality compared to the Osmo Nano. Super Night Mode. Well, we've got Super Night Mode in the Osmo Nano, just like we do with the DJI Action 5 Pro, and I can tell you that it actually works pretty well in dimly lit situations. Now, when you compare it to the Insta360 Ace Pro 2, the Insta360 Go Ultra, and the Action 5 Pro side by side, you can see that there is a slight little difference between all of them. But if you don't do the comparison, the Super Night Mode is actually very nice on this camera. Now, mounting capabilities. You can actually use the Action 4 or the Action 5 Pro mounting clip on the bottom of the Osmo Nano. So that makes it nice that you don't have to purchase another mounting system. Fast charging. Well, I can tell you, it'll charge both the Vision Pod and the camera itself from 0 to 80% in about 20 minutes. And in my testing, it ranged anywhere from 19 minutes to about 22 minutes to get to 80%. And I guess a lot of that has to do with the charger that you're using with it. But yes, fast charging on this camera is definitely a plus. You know, built-in storage. You can either get the 64 or 128 gigabytes, which is what I opted for. And it's nice to have built-in storage into a camera to where you don't have to worry about, hey, you know, I forgot to get an SD card. Well, in this case, you don't even have to worry about the SD card part because it only records to the internal storage only, but that may be a con. And regarding SD card, takes an SD card slot up to 1 terabyte that you can stick into it, a little micro SD card, to be able to offload some of your footage from the internal storage into the SD card and then take it out and then put it directly into your computer for editing purposes. Now on to the cons of the DJI Osmo Nano. Overheating. Well, I guess we're going to have to talk about it because a lot of people have had issues with it. I had issues when I first got the camera just to initialize it with the Mimo app, and it kept disconnecting and it did overheat on me, and that's even before downloading the initial firmware. Now, after the 3 firmware updates that got released, the overheating has helped a little bit, but I will tell you that overheating is still an issue with this camera. If you're recording 4K at 120 frames per second, you will notice overheating very quickly. I mean, it can be in the minutes where you're talking 6 to 8 minutes. The thing will overheat and it'll just stop recording. So that's something to keep in mind. Battery life in the Vision Pod is not the greatest, I'll tell you that right now. It seems like the battery that's in the camera module is actually going to be a larger capacity battery, although there's no specs on that. But the camera module itself, the battery lasts much longer than what the Action or the Vision Pod is, because I think that the Vision Pod is strictly for 2 things. First off, to give you a screen display, and second off, to offload a little bit of extra juice into the camera module. If the camera module is starting to run a little bit low, you can just plug it on top of there. So it's kind of like a little extra backup battery. But yeah, the battery is definitely an issue on the Vision Pod. You know, earlier I talked about that it's got normal color profile or D-Log M. One thing it does not have is no HLG. And, you know, when you've got HLG in the previous cameras with the DJI, you would think that they would have it with this one, but I'm going to leave it as a con for right now until they actually update the firmware and possibly offer HLG in a future firmware update. Wait, well, you know, it's bigger and it's heavier than what the Insta360 Go 3S is. Now, you know, I can sit there and talk about weight, and you may go, well, you know, why are you even bringing this up? I mean, they're all small cameras all in all, but why is it important to look at the weight of these cameras? And I'll tell you my thought process. Considering that the Insta360 Ace Pro 2 comes in at 178.8 grams and the Action 5 Pro comes in at 146.2 grams, this is right in the middle of where these small, ultra small cameras are. But in my opinion, the Insta360 Ace Pro 2 and the Action 5 Pro offer more features and better battery life and better heat management than what this Nano does. So when you're thinking about size comparison between two cameras like this, you say, okay, well, it's a little bit smaller, but the battery life is so much better on the Action 5 Pro or the Ace Pro 2 than what it is on this Nano. So who is the DJI Osmo Nano made for? Well, I would say that creatives that like to do a lot of easy POV shots without all the weight of a traditional camera, like on a hat mount or a chest mount or mounting them onto something metal, and you're not looking to record long videos, then yes, DJI makes good products and this may be the product for you. But, and this is a big but, if you're not planning on using it for POV shots, whether on your hat or on your chest, and you're looking to get some really nice action camera shots or action shots, or even vlogging with it for any length of time, then I think that you may want to steer away from the Osmo Nano and actually get a proper action camera, whether it's the DJI Action 4 or the 5 or the Insta360 products, because I think that the battery life and the features and the color and the image quality is far superior. I'll say far superior. All that other stuff, image quality is pretty close between the Nano and these other cameras, but even then, I still think the image quality is far superior, battery life, and all that compared to the Nano. So the Nano, to me, is in a very niche market, and it's in that niche market with Insta360, whether you're getting the Insta360 Go 3, the Go 3S, the Go 3 Ultra. It's a market for small, compact point of view shots that you're not going to shoot long videos with. If that's what you're looking for, get a traditional action camera. I'll have product links down in the description below to the DJI Nano, as well as all the other action cameras that I've shown examples of. So that's the review of the DJI Osmo Nano. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching this. If you have any questions or comments, put it down in the comment section below, because I do read and respond to all the comments. And as always, I'll catch you in the next review. Bye-bye.